Yeah, you already know, baby. It's going down.
Oh, suck it down.
Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. In the place to be, y'all. Gynesis Radio right here. The Feel Good Radio Show, the TP Squared Show. Right here, me, the most interesting DJ in the world, man.
Woo woo! You better say woo woo when you say my name, man.
You already
what's going
know.
on, man. You can't say DJ Ray, the most interesting DJ in the world, without the woo woo.
There it is, y'all. There it is. Y'all already know. We in the place, man. You know,
What up, world?
we're going to bump our gums for a little while.
We in the building.
Yeah, it's been a while,
It's been a while.
but we back.
Like we never left.
You
Back like
already
we
know.
never left, bro. You know what I mean? We back like we never left. Yo, I'm seeing this. The camera work is crazy, man. It's crazy, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You already know how they go, man. You know,
The 2023
Yeah.
version got me excited, man. Got me excited.
This is what we do. This is how we do it. You already know, man. You know, but we here today, man. We want to talk a little bit about unity in the community today, man.
Oh, we talking about unity in the community?
Unity in the community, man.
Okay,
Yep. We talking about a little unity in the community.
okay. I can take that. I can take that. Where we
Yeah.
gonna start with that? Cause that's a whole big
Well, you know,
that's a lot.
first things first. First thing we want to do is build our community. So, you know, we have to talk about how we're going to build our community. You know, that's the most important thing that anybody can do to their communities to help build it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, you know, their community really ain't their community. See, a lot of the business people in your community, that ain't their community. You know, they are vampires. They come and take the money out of your community and go back to where they live at, to their community, right? We talk about unity in the community, where we live at, and a lot of us work at. You know, we want to do some things and talk about some things that's going to help build that community to make it a safer place for our children, a safer place to live, and a great place to build a business and be a part of what's going on in that community. Fully be invested in the community. And we're having an event right here in East Stroudsburg in August 23rd, 2023, right here in Dansbury Park in East Stroudsburg. And we want everybody in the community to come on out. We're going to have some live entertainment. We're going to have vendors selling their wares. We're going to have food vendors selling their food. We're going to have a sound stage provided by the Sherman Theater. We're going to have live entertainment, live bands, DJs, comedians. And we're going to have the local politicians from both sides of the aisle come out and talk to people. And, you know, we just want to be a part of the community, you know. And when we say community, we want it to be just that. What you think, Ryan?
Hey, listen, man. I'm gonna take it back, man, because I second that emotion, man, on everything you gotta say, man. Everything you said is an actual fact, and you know, unfortunately, this template that we developing is needed in a lot of other areas too, besides our own community. So
all over the country.
But first, we want to fix home.
That's right.
We working on home, you know, and then once the cup gets filled, we gonna pour out of it, pour into somebody else's cup. But you know, right now, let's take care of home. And honestly, look, I'm gonna take this back to my pop, Salute Russ Senior. He brought us up with the mentality that you don't eat and crap in the same place.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we never understood like robbing each other in the neighborhood and all that stuff.
No.
We wasn't about that.
No.
We wasn't trying to destroy our neighborhood. Like we grew up around the Raheem and the Shaheems of the world.
Mm-hmm.
These brothers were conscious years ago, and they were doing a project called Build a Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We grew up around We Are the World.
Mm-hmm.
And all the musicians was pulling together and stuff like that. That's the era that we grew up in.
Yeah.
So that's I guess it was instilled to us subconsciously, because without realizing it, all the lessons that we encountered along the way, a lesson is a blessing. Now we here, now we are somewhat the elders of the community. And
hold up, back that up one time. What do you mean we?
well, listen,
he said we're the elders. Nah, you're right. We are the elders.
Compared to the youth. I mean, we can't say,
Absolutely.
We ain't the high schoolers, but what the elders were doing and what the youth was doing, look, they were having basketball tournaments in the park. We used to go to the Y and take a swimming class. Everybody, whatever the positive stuff was going on in the community, we pretty much witnessed it. Whether it was the DJs in the park, whatever it was bringing people together. And somewhere along the line, there was a disconnect. And we stopped doing so much of that. And it started turning from a we thing into a me thing, as Father LeCour would say. I had to steal that from you, Lay. But yeah, somewhere along the line, there was a disconnect. And it wasn't a disconnect totally, because there was still a lot of people out there with that good energy and still doing it. But it was a little more that was needed, because, look, these generations are dealing with different type of issues than we were dealing with. So we got to adjust, adapt. And we were brought up build and destroy. You know what I mean? Some of the stuff we doing, we need to let it go. We need to destroy some of that stuff. But we just got to keep building. We don't eat and crap in the same place, and unfortunately, too, there's a lot of people that's in their community that don't care about their community. Their main goal for working hard is to get out of there.
Yeah, well,
or then somewhere along the line, you get that aha moment. You be like, you know what? I'm more needed over here.
Well, all I want to say about this is the community is things in the community changed in the 80s. And I want to say the late 80s, not the early 80s, not the 70s. The community began to change in the late 80s, going into the 90s, because funding was cut for the community with a lot of things. Like, for instance, where are the little leagues that were in the community? I remember I played baseball with Jamaica Central Little League. There is no more Jamaica Central Little League. There's no more Laurelton Little League. There's no more Cambria Heights Little League. There's no more Rosedale Little League. There's not even a Howard Beach Little League anymore. You know what I mean?
Wow.
What happened? Things begin to change, because the neighborhood mom and dad was people who made those things happen. They was the ones who organized and ran the Little League baseball leagues, and I mean, we had Belrose and Hollis and St. Albans. Every community had a little league, that consisted of at least 12 teams, in that community. They're gone. You know what I mean? So the little boys and girls who want to learn how to play baseball and softball, what do they do now? Where are they? We have to bring back Little League baseball, softball. We have to bring stuff like that back. Bitty basketball. Big shout out to Jay Vaughn with the Almighty Force Basketball League, tournaments that he kept running after Raheem and Shahi handed it down to him, and they still over there in 226, junior high school 226, doing that over there, But when we say build the community, we're going to take it back to the essence, because it got to start with the babies, with the little kids. You know what I mean? We had the Springfield Rifles and all of the little football leagues, Little League football and all that stuff growing up. These were found in, these were building blocks to build good men and women in the community, because if they knew how to be a part of the community, they would stay a part of the community. You know what I mean? Because I remember this, growing up, right? When we came to South Ozone Park, right? You didn't have people necessarily moving from South Ozone Park to Long Island. You know, that came later on. If your house was too small for you in South Ozone Park, you might have moved to a bigger house in South Ozone Park. Or you moved to the next neighborhood. You know, maybe you moved from South Ozone Park to South Jamaica, or from South Jamaica to St. Albans, St. Albans to Hollis, to Springfield, to Cambria Heights, to Laurelton, to Rosedale. You still was in the general community, neighborhoods, you know, and I'm just talking, we talk about New York City right now, you know, although we talk about unity in the community right here in Stroudsburg and East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. But I'm just using that as an example of how you didn't have to leave the community, so to speak, because it was one big community with subdivisions, you know, and it's the same thing up here in the Poconos, you know, it's one community with subdivisions. You have East Stroudsburg, you have Stroudsburg, you have Henryville, Mount Pocono, and, you know, all of the little different neighborhoods, you know, it's still one community, you know, and we need to bring all these things back under one umbrella so we can build good young adults, you know, because if the little children have something, a model that they can roll off of, they can feed off of, you know, that's going to teach them to look back behind them to make sure what they received from the community, they want to make sure the kids coming up behind them can receive in the community, you know, and they can look at their community as not only just a place to live, but it's a place to go to work, do business, start a business, be in the community, because there's so much that we need right here in our community, and we have the people in the community that can do it, you know. So you mentioned, Rudd, most people desire is to come up and leave the community. We want to change that mindset. What do you think, man?
I think we need to change that mindset, because as history has now taught us, I mean, the pandemic taught us a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anybody that's still here under the sound of my voice, you survived. We here, so that's a celebration in itself. You know, but a lot of it still boils down to economics. Like, we have to be able to support ourselves, and the community is still a good investment. Right? They so many other cultures want to come in. We spend more money than any other culture.
Mm-hmm.
The Black community spends more on fashion, more on seafood. You know, we could go on down the line. Sneakers, music,
yeah,
media. We totally invested in entertainment and fashion, and our funds are the driving force for that economy. I would also say that our forefathers actually set the table for us. That's why I said at some point there was a disconnect. We kind of dropped the ball. Yeah. And I'm not saying we, I'm talking about me too.
Yeah.
Because my grandmother tried to set me up. I didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted me to take that house in Brooklyn and move back there. But I didn't want to move back there.
But you know what it was, Rod?
But that was a mistake. That in hindsight, I can look at that now and say that was a mistake. It was a mistake.
But keep in mind, like I said, things began to change in the late 80s and early 90s for us, right? Because we couldn't grasp the effects of the crack era and the drug game on our communities, right? So all we wanted to do was get out, because we were tired of the murder, death, kill, and seeing people strung out on crack, strung out on heroin. So you didn't want to be a part of that, and you didn't want your children to see that. So what did you do? You cashed out. You got what you can get, and now you moved to Long Island. You moved to Westchester County. Or you did like I did. You came up here to Northeast Pennsylvania, you know. So in hindsight, we left for a reason, you know, when we should have battened down the hatches and became vocal voices in our community to push back on all the ills that came in and sideswiped the community. So that's why, when we talk about building our community up, we got to start at home. We got to stop running. We can't run. We can't run. We got to save the babies, and we got to teach the babies to become the young adults and be positive influences on everybody else. And the only way they can do that is if we provide the platform and the blueprint. You know what I mean? Because guess what? All the little businesses in the community can help change our community. People talking about eggs is $6 a dozen now, or whatever they saying they are. I got 18 eggs the other day for $6. So when people talk about dub eggs is through the roof, I don't know. But there are people in the community that have chickens, right? Especially up here in the Poconos. A lot of people got chickens.
Quiet as kept. It's people got chickens in their backyard in Brooklyn.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't sleep, man. Don't sleep.
So what I'm saying is, we can all contribute to our community one way or the other. You know what I mean? I'm using eggs and chickens for an example. If there is 1,000 people with 2 chickens, you know what I mean? And what? Chickens lay what? 1 egg a day? 2 eggs a day? Whatever it is. You pull all those eggs together. Now, when you go to the market, you just lowered the price of the cost of eggs. You know what I mean? Because it's community. If we act as a community and we build and we move as a community, we can do stuff like that. You know what I mean, right?
Listen, I'm with you on that, man. But the reality of the situation is, if you give a man a fish, he only gonna eat for today.
True indeed.
But if you teach him how to fish, he can eat for the rest of his life. And at some point, we stop learning how to fish. A reality is, if the supermarket closed, a lot of us gonna be screwed up. But in reality, my great-grandparents were farmers. They owned land. They grew crop. They knew how to grow a cucumber and a tomato and a soybean, cornfields. They know how to tend land, plow. They know what peat moss is. You know what I mean? Like there was a disconnect in agriculture, and a lot of it still stems back to the economy, even outside of the inner city. Let's take it to the Long Island. Let's take it to the upstates. Let's take it to the PAs. The same house in one part of Orange County is $40,000 more than the same house in another part of Orange County, just because of the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that's the 1, 2, and 3 top school districts, they have these kind of programs still. They got basketball teams and music programs and stuff like that. It's the other school districts that's not funded the same way that they have to cut these programs and stuff. Like music pretty much is one of the things I think that was most instrumental in keeping me out of trouble a lot of times. And I still managed to get in trouble. But if I didn't have music or some kind of extracurricular sport activity, who knows what would have happened? You know what I mean? So it still boils down to economics in some sense of who gets the funding for these extracurricular programs, and where they cut the fat is usually in the lower economically developed neighborhoods. Let's just put it like that.
Well, what's ironic is, the church was a big part of the community.
Absolutely.
Right? We need to get the churches back involved in the community. We got to get the churches, all denominations, and the synagogues back into the community, and to get away from this prosperity preaching stuff, and I know some of you ministers and pastors in these churches don't like to hear that. Stop being selfish, stop being self-centered, and get back to being a part of the community. Pour into the community and stop allowing the community to pour into you, the individual, so you can go live happily ever after, high on the hog with your little family, fly your planes and drive your Bentleys. That's not community. That's selfishness. So we need to get away from that. So we need the churches to re-examine themselves. You know, yes, the pastor's entitled to draw a salary. Yes, he should live good. Yes, but he should also make sure that his community is taken care of. And we need the churches come on board, be part of unity in the community. Come out, bring your congregation out, and let's put the ideas on the table of what we can do for our community collectively. You know what I mean? Because in every church, you got people from all walks of life with all kinds of gifts and talents, you know, career-wise, that you can lift up some of these people that are downtrodden. Some of these young adults that are leaning towards to the left, too far to the left or too far to the right, leaning towards getting into trouble. We can be the example of why they don't do this. And I say this because you can go to any penitentiary in the United States of America, any penitentiary. And if you take a keyboard in that penitentiary, a guitar, some drums, just using those three basic items, instruments, I can assure you that 50% of the inmates could play one of those instruments, because there was a foundation somewhere and they had music as part of their life, you know. And I watch on TV The Big House, you know, they about prisons and whatnot. And there was an episode they had on there about some of the things that's in the prison, you know, some of the programs they had, and music was one of them. And I watched this prison band play on one of these things, and I was like, those are Grammy winning performers right there.
Absolutely.
They just happen to be in prison. You know what I mean? They have the talent, but something went wrong somewhere within their community that got them off track. You know what I mean? Got them off track. Because when I think about it, man, I couldn't have been no more than about 5 years old when, you know, my mother and father put me in front of an organ. You know, I remember I had a little rinky-dink organ because there was always a piano in the house, you know.
Oh, you had the Casio?
Nah, this was before Casio. I forget what this was. This little brown thing, you know. It was an ugly brown organ, man. You know what I mean? You know.
Wow.
And my mother sat at that piano in the living room, and she would play that piano, and I would watch her play that piano, and she that little dial that went tick tick tick. You know what I mean? You know, she taught me the basis on how to play a keyboard, to play a piano. You know, my first instrument, all in 1 year, I got drums, I got a guitar, and I got an organ because the piano was already in the house. You know what I'm saying? So I had my Hot Wheels and my Matchbox too, but I was introduced to art at an early age. And most of the men that was in prison, in that prison band, when they talked about it, when they start talking to these guys, they talked about their youth, what they were introduced to until something went wrong in their life. They had a life-altering moment that turned them into monsters, drug addicts, you know, thieves, you know, and everybody got a story to tell because there's good in everybody. You know, I can even find something good about Charles Manson. Charles Manson went to jail for murder and he didn't kill nobody. You know what I mean? Not saying that he was a good person, but I'm just saying he went to prison for the Sharon Tate murder and he didn't kill anybody. But his words were strong enough to convince somebody to go do the killing. You know what I mean? So, and I bring that up because all these men that was on this TV show that was in this Big House segment about, you know, jailhouse musicians, they all had a story to tell. You know, it could have been divorce. You know, it could have been death of a parent. It could have been. It was a lot of different things. You know, there was some form of abuse that came in. You know, that changed the mindsets of these young men and women. You know, but we got to build the community back. So we got to get back to our community. So we want everybody to think of something that they can bring to the table to help build your community. If you are if you're a musician, be willing to donate some of your time to teach some of these young kids how to play that instrument that you play. If you do basketball, big shout out to my man Shane Woney and one. You know, I'm about to put him in the chokehold and have him up here with this YouTube community so he could do a basketball clinic, the dribble machine. You know what I mean? Show these kids how to dribble that basketball and do all these different things because everybody have a gift and talent. Even here at Gynesis Radio, we can bring them kids in here to Gynesis Radio and show them how to be a radio host, to do a podcast. We have a record studio upstairs. You want to be a rapper? You want to be a singer? You know, you want to be a musician? We got a studio right here at Gynesis. You want to do a podcast? We got a podcast studio right here. You want to do radio? You can do radio right here. We are here in the community, and we're going to be a part of the community, and we want everybody to help us build our community. You know what I mean, right?
Listen, I think the most important part of anybody's story is to let people know how we got here. Yes. How do we get a studio? How do we become into broadcasting? What made us want to do this? You know what I mean? Like that's important too, because at some point you make a choice, and you know you can't hang around with chickens and expect to fly like an eagle. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of choices you have to make in order to step into help the community role. You know what I mean? Because certain things we do, unfortunately, you know, our track record sometimes hurt us. And even though we might not be the same people we were 30, 40 years ago, people don't forget that. You know, everybody is in a cancel culture. Mm-hmm. They're not into forgiving, or maybe he's different now. A lot of times you just don't get a second chance. That's why it's so important to
unless you get a job with the housing authority.
Yeah, you gotta move a certain way, man. And
MTA.
At some point you realize it can't just be all, as we say, bits and giggles. You know what I mean? At some point, you gotta take your life serious. Yeah. You know what I mean? You gotta realize that you are worth something. Mm-hmm. And you are somebody, and you gotta realize that one person can make a change, and 3 people could change the world. You know what I mean? Like it don't have to be, you know, you don't have to have an army behind you. Sometimes you just gotta step out on faith. You know what I mean? I would say, like, if one of my proudest moments is when we started doing Hydra back in the day. You know, believe it or not, the studio was like the community center.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that they didn't really aspire to be a musician, but it was a safe place to come and play a video game. Mm-hmm. Some people was in the video games more than they was in the music. They were just there. It was a safe place to hang out, and we were doing music too, but it was more than a studio. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you know, thank God we got a second chance to reinvent ourselves under this brand. You know, Gynesis Radio is another safe haven. It's just we created it. We learned from our mistakes.
But yeah, you know what?
And now we're trying to do it bigger and better.
Let's take it back to Hydra.
Yo, that's what I'm talking about.
Let's take it back to Hydra. You remember when we came back and all those cats was down there making their music? They didn't know what they didn't know what the next step was. They didn't know where to take it, how to get it out, how to get it published. Me, you, Spence, and Wayne came in there and said, "Hey, we about to go on the road." And they looked at us like we was crazy. Go on the road? Go where? We ain't got no money. We ain't got nothing. Shut up. Get in the car. Pack your bag. We leaving this day, this time, and we going down south. You know, and not only are we going to do music, we can go down there and play some basketball and we're gonna take basketball and music. We're gonna put it together. We created a culture, and we tied it together. We looped it together, and it was basketball. We was taking New York City basketball players, and the fact our team was called New York City Street Ballers. Remember the uniforms we had? New York City Street Ballers. You know what I mean? We took them and we took the Hydra Camp, which was musicians, singers, rappers, performers, and we took them down south and we introduced them to the South, and we introduced the South to our sound and our vibe, the energy that we was bringing from New York. You know what I mean? So they didn't see that coming. They knew they had the studio to go hang out at, right? Play video games and make music. But we said, now we're going to take your music and introduce it to the world. We're going to take it and we're going to start down in the southern states of the United States of America. And that's what we did, man.
We did it. But the other key component to add on to what you just said, that was a unity in the community event. Even though we didn't realize it, originally we was like, oh, this is a good little way to do something in the community, and it was a hustle for us. It was a way for us to make money. So we were being compensated for it. But at some point, guess what? You can't just come draw out the well and then take your water and go somewhere else. How is that helping the community?
Right.
And this event, when we sat down with the mayor, he gave us an ear, and we came up collectively with some ideas how this could benefit the community. They wasn't going to let a bunch of city slicker New Yorkers come down there, make money every weekend, and then go back to New York and leave them high and dry. And we done took all their girls, and we didn't even let none of their artists perform. There were stipulations.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? It's nothing wrong with tapping in when you go somewhere. Now people are like, I ain't checking. I don't got to check in. No, it's not about you have to check in. It's not about always your safety. It's about if you want the real love, you got to have a conversation. And
the more that you give, the more that you get.
Right. But if it's the art of negotiation, sometimes if somebody say, well, how much you willing to pay, and you give them a number, they might have been willing to give you more than what you was even thinking about. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't come in there like that. We came in there with our agenda. But at the same token, when the mayor said, well, listen, you're going to have a basketball game, we need you to hire a local DJ. Let them make a few dollars. We need let the church sell the concessions. Let them sell the hot dogs and the sodas.
Hey, look,
so it was good for everybody in the community now is involved. The church is selling the hot dogs and the sodas. Right. We got a local DJ. Right. We splitting the proceeds of the event with the club owner. Yeah. He's taking the bar, we taking the door, whatever it was. It wasn't like we was just trying to grab all the money and then go back home. Like, it was good for the community till it got to a point where they like, hey, when's the next one? Yeah. Because this is good for everybody.
But you know what's crazy? They made a few suggestions to us, right? I remember that vividly. And how you said sometimes, it's just a conversation and you can receive more than you were seeking, right? And one of the things that we did, we gave away the concession stand to the church. We said, you know what? The church can have the concession stand. So every hot dog sold, every soda sold, every bottle of water, bag of potato chips, cookie, all that money can go right to the church. We don't need none of that. Y'all can have that. You know what I mean? We gonna get.
We took the ticket sales off the door.
We gonna take the ticket sales off the door, and for the main event. Then the after party at the club and stuff, we split that with the club owner. You know what?
But it was still enough to go around.
It was more than enough to go around. We poured into their community. You know what I mean? And like you said, it got to the point where they was like, well, when y'all coming back? When we gonna do this again? Because everybody in the community benefited. And one of the places that benefited was the senior citizen daycare. And I forgot what they called it back then, but it was senior citizen daycare, the event center where the seniors would go during the course of the day to play cards and have lunch, and just talk amongst each other before they go back home. I'm not talking about the people who live, in a nursing home or a senior center.
Right. Talking about the locals.
The local senior center where the locals would come out. They would have their breakfast and their lunch. They'll watch TV. They'll play cards. They'll talk. Well, we poured into that with that event. You know what I mean? And it worked all around. So that's what we want to get back to in our communities. Right here in Northeast Pennsylvania, we want to get back to all of that. We want the businesses to be a part of it. Let everybody know what you sell. You might have a unique product that somebody's traveling to New Jersey to buy because they don't know your business is here in East Stroudsburg, and the Poconos. They don't know your business is here. There's a lot of people that's designing and selling clothes, right? People who have embroidery machines and they can make T-shirts and all this stuff. Why we have to go back to New York City to buy that stuff when there's a place right there on First Street in Stroudsburg that do T-shirts. You know what I mean? That business needs to come out to be a part of unity in the communities because let the people know you're here. Because if they don't know you're here, they can't spend their money with you. Let's let our money stay in our community 7 times before it go out. Right here in Northeast Pennsylvania. Let it stay in the community 7 times before it goes out. Because everything that we need here in Northeast Pennsylvania is right here. We should not have to go to Jersey for nothing. We shouldn't have to go to New York City for nothing. Not that we can't go to travel and spend no money there, but I'm saying that all our needs can be met right here in our own community.
You know why I'm laughing?
Why are you laughing?
Because this ain't news to me, man. I've been hanging around you for years, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's guys like you that showed guys like me the other side of entrepreneurial spirit. Besides, maybe what you learned in other places, actually knowing somebody and actually seeing somebody do it. It puts a different belief in it. This is why this is so important because a lot of people don't think they could do stuff like that or on that level. They don't see it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes we the biggest thing in our own way is us, our own mind. You know what I mean? But look, I would say 2 words. I know this could be done. Marshall's Creek.
Yes.
Now, how long ago? That was years.
Yes. And
it was the same concept.
Yeah.
We used to take all that New York stuff
and
you had like a flea market situation.
Yep.
And, listen, you made your little profit, but it saved people the trip from going to Manhattan. They didn't have to go down there to get that, But unfortunately, the thing is, what happens is a lot of times, like once somebody has something, it's always a Me Too guy. It's a Me Too guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I went to Coney Island. Shout out to Brooklyn. I'm in Coney Island the other night. It's a hook and reel seafood restaurant there.
Mm-hmm.
I kid you not, right next door, they open a crab house. Like, I mean, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got 2 people doing the same thing right next door to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Me too.
That's like having two liquor stores or 3 barbershops on the same block. And in some areas, you see that.
If the business warrants it. If it's enough business
all,
go around.
They all be struggling. That's the thing. Like,
right.
and that's what we try to explain into this media game. There's a lot of people right now, they're pulling together and they rallying behind Gynesis because we survived the initial test. We still here. After several years and people thought we were going to fail, we still here. So now we getting a little more support, but nobody wants to support the movement when it's not moving. Right. That's the problem. Like, people will try to smile in your face and talk behind your back, and they taking your business plan and they trying to start their own thing. So if everybody want to start their own thing, and at some point, there's nothing wrong with starting your own thing, but at some point you got to realize we better together. we can work together. It's the same thing with anything else. If you got several people and they on the same mission as you and you're working together, you're going to get a lot further than if you just was trying to do it by yourself.
Absolutely.
Depending on the players, you know.
Absolutely. Well, you know,
I mean, if you got a bunch of people in your boat that they just sitting in the back of the boat and they watching you do all the rowing, that's dead weight. We need to get rid of that.
Well, let me tell you something.
But if everybody rowing,
what's that old biblical story about Jonah? Get off my boat. Because if you don't get off my boat, I'm gonna throw you overboard. You know what I mean? Because sometimes
I like that.
You got to throw the people overboard and get them off your boat. You know what I mean? Because we are better together, right? But everybody has to be rowing in the boat. You know what I mean? Everybody has to row in the boat because we all bring something to the table. Just hey, put it on the table. Put your cards on the table. Turn them face up. Because guess what? You might only have one spade in your hand in the game of spades, but I'm your partner, right?
There you go.
I got 8 spades. With your 1 spade, we got 9. You know what I mean? We better together so we can win the game. And that's the story of the game of life. We have to do things collectively together so we can win in this game of life. You know what I mean? And what's important is with unity in the community, some people will talk the builders from building. Come over here and join with us, the destroyers, you know, because you have builders and you have destroyers of your community. And somehow the destroyers will make the destruction of your community look better than the building of your community. Because we can talk about building a business together, right? And the destroyer gonna say it ain't gonna work. You know why it ain't gonna work? Because they ain't got no experience doing it. You know why it ain't gonna work? Because nobody like him or nobody like her. Nobody gonna spend any money with them. It's not gonna work. Those are the people you got to get out your circle. Those are the people you got to get away from. Those people who want to destroy and not build, because collectively it doesn't matter. You know, like the old Bible says, you know, the stone that was rejected became the cornerstone. You know what I mean? So we have to concentrate on building, starting with our youth, start out with the businesses that's already here. You know what? We shouldn't only have the big box store to run to. Walmart should not be the only person in our community that gets all the grocery shopping money. ShopRite we should have the little mom and pop stores in the community that sell groceries. We got that where our radio station was at before when we first started doing Genesis. Around the corner was that market, that nature something supermarket where they sell natural products and all stuff. It's a supermarket it's virtually a Whole Foods on a community level right here in East Stroudsburg. You want to get some raw milk, you can go there and get raw milk, you know.
Facts.
So we have to have those options in our community, because guess what? No offense to Walmart, they will contribute to the community they're working in, but they're not going to put enough to make a difference. You know what I mean? But yet, everybody who lives in the Poconos at some point during the week find themselves dropping their money in Walmart. Well, guess what? The Walmart family don't live in Pennsylvania. Technically speaking, Walmart and Amazon, all those, they carpetbaggers. They just taking the money and going. You know, are they really pouring back in the community? But if we got the small mom and pop grocery store, you know, like McNulty's over on 209, it's a what is it? Food town of somebody, whoever it is. It's called McNulty's. It used to be called McNulty's before it became Food Town. I lived down the block from it. But anyway, that's a family-owned business. Go spend your money with them. They're from Pennsylvania. They're local. They have a franchise store, but they're local people that run it. You know what I mean? The pizzerias, the Chinese restaurants. I don't know about the Chinese restaurants, But I did know that there's one Chinese restaurant here that, in fact, we went and brought lunch from there today. That's the only Chinese restaurant I ever went to that had non-Chinese people working in there. You know, they used to have somebody taking orders inside there. The delivery guy, you know, wasn't Chinese. And I support that. I always supported that restaurant because I felt that they was being a part of the community. They hired people from the community. The delivery guy was from the community. So that was enough for me. You know what I mean? Although when I looked at their cars had New York license plates on them. So they driving back to New York. You know what I mean? And then they coming back in the morning to sell Chinese food up here in East Stroudsburg, but then they drive back to New York every day. You got to pay attention to people that's in your community. Not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'm saying to you is there is enough of everything right here in our community that we should not have to go outside of our community to get anything. Let's bring everybody together to put it on the table, show people what you have here. August 23rd, come out to Dansbury Park. Go on Facebook. We have a Unity in the Community event. We have a group page as well as the event page on Facebook. Join the group, sign up. Tell us what you bring to the table for the community and what you can bring out. You know, it's not a heavy lift. It's a light lift because it's about the community. You know,
I got an interesting story to tell, but I want to tie in the music with this subject matter. You know what I mean?
Go right ahead.
Because honestly, everything I'm going to play today, everything I'm going to play in this segment, since we taking it there, I'm going to hit y'all with some classics, with a few songs, some break beats, everything tied into building samples. People took and created other records and stuff like that, but the lyrical content is really what you got to listen to, man. You know what I mean? The lyrical content of these songs is what I really want y'all to listen to. I want you to sit back and enjoy the most interesting DJ in the world in TP Square. Feel Good TP Square Show combo pack. And I got an interesting story to tell y'all when we get back, man. But I want to take it there, man, because you know what I know about this community right here?
Break it down.
I know they got soul with PA, man. I know they got soul.
A whole lot of soul.
All right, let's get it. I know they got soul.
All right, sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We're going to be right back, y'all.